Yo, it would not let me connect to the fucking app. I had to like put in my email and all that shit all over again. Like this fucking app signs you out whenever it feels like it. All the PlayStation apps do that. And that's another thing, like with the next consoles, that they should definitely build into the hardware itself is a way to um, manipulate your streams and have all the options and stream options on the hardware itself. Yo, it was good, bro. Got a box in the mail today. I'm not sure what it is. I've been ordering a lot of shit lately. Got these so I can hang my letters up in the bathroom. Brought my laptop back to the house. Let's see. I'm thinking this is that plastic that I ordered. Um, I had a razor up here. Aha. Yep. It is indeed my roll of plastic. Um, hmm. It's on the spool, so you can put it on a rod or something. I wonder how I could set this thing up. Hey man, this stuff comes from Japan. It's not made in America. Oh damn, this shit got a Japanese label on it. All right, so what I've said I was going to try this shit already, and I haven't, so I'm going to try it now. Probably fuck some shit up real quick, but hey, that's what we do around here. You gotta fuck some shit up. Make sure you're doing it right. So I have this. I have this thing, which is an impulse sealer. So we're gonna plug this in. It's not on a. It says I have a very long cord. Will it reach this far? I guess that's enough. Okay. I guess this is pretty straightforward. So what I want to do is, let's see something here. Damn, I really wish I had something to set it up on. Yo, what up? Bought the nigga rig. Perfect. Almost perfect. I should have it away so it can be right in front of me. We'll figure that out. Oh, this part. Nice, nice. So essentially, what I would want to do is about that much there, I guess. Let's see. And then, what is this on? It goes up to 8. It's set at 3. So let's do set it at 4. And if I take this and lay it like so. Haha. But it doesn't have a cutter on it. So I would have to bam. I think your boy's in business. Yeah, about 5 pieces of wood. I got some wood in the basement. What? Yes, sir. This shit about to be the real deal. Yeah, everything can fit in there. In a nice little package. Sell them up. Put a tag on it. Put it right in the store. Yes, sir. Alright. So that works. That works. All I need now is the product. Oh yeah. Yeah, I probably use UPS for shipping, but I already got like two places where I'm gonna put them in like stores already. So I already got some shelving space ready, so I won't have to ship too many of them out if, when these local businesses get them. But then, yeah, I need to order like I say, I can get them shits from UPS or wherever, like just little slim ass boxes, or let UPS package it up. I'll put them I'll put all of them in the sleeves, and then give them to UPS. Let UPS put them in the box because the customer's gonna have to pay for shipping anyway. Boy, about to be in business. Yes, sir. A little bit more. I need to just make this money, but I done invested a lot. Like the most expensive part so far has been the patent itself. Just to get the patent was like a good little chunk of change. And then the next most expensive thing, of course, was to get the products put in their production. So if I can get all of that money back in like the first two shipments, like if I sell this whole shipment, I'll make almost all my money back. Not really a profit, but since I already have everything, the next order should be almost all profit. Or a really good profit off of the second one. That is if people wanna actually buy these shits anyway. I mean, it makes sense to me. It's useful for me, but I mean, other people, I don't know. Motherfuckers hate to spend $20. Oh, Travis got a product. How much it is? $5? No, it's $20. $20. I ain't about to get that nigga $20 for that shit. Motherfucker asking for $20. Is the product expensive? Nah, it's $19.99 plus shipping. That is, if you're not local, if you can't buy one locally out the stores. Already getting my bags dirty. All right, the static is making everything stick to this shit. All right, so we sealed our first bag. We know that works. It works like it should work, and the plastic fits the product. So we're in a good spot right now, guys. We're in a really good position right now. Oh yeah, oh yeah, you gotta have one. All All right, so yeah, I think the product itself is the next thing I'm waiting for in the mail. It's the next and last thing. I have, like I said, the only thing I have to do is get labels and tags for it. But I'm thinking I could just get like some stock paper and print them shits out myself. I have a printer. I have a stapler. You know what I'm saying? Seal the bags up, print a little tag out, staple it to the top of the bag, boom. There you go. Give me a lot of paper. You're yeah, that ink does get expensive. But it's only gonna be black. I'm only gonna write one thing on it. Prince brush holder. And that's it. Prince brush holder. And just print that shit out. Over and over and over. It shouldn't be that hard. Yo, 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 what's up, guys? What's up, guys? So, almost there. Almost there. So, and I'm a sole proprietorship, so I don't really need all the extra fancy paperwork and all that shit. I do need to add a certain clause to my commissions price list because I'm in a situation now where I should have had a clause prepared for something like this, but it never happened before, so never really thought about it. But now that I think about it, I should definitely let people be aware of that before they enter into a business agreement with me or some type of verbal contract. Well, damn. I might have to try that. But normally, like, when I do buy cartridges, I'll buy 2 or 3 of them at a time. Because them shits are like $27 just for the black cartridge alone, yo. So I go ahead and spend like $60, $65 and just have ink on standby. And it lasts me, I can do that for like, it lasts me a year because I don't really print out a lot of stuff at home, honestly. Um, yeah, I don't print out a lot of stuff. I don't need to like print stuff. All right. Let me unplug this thing. Cools down pretty quick. At least it works, so. You know, sometimes you order some shit, man, that shit don't work like you think it's supposed to. I think there was an update or a new add-on mission to Ghost Recon Breakpoint. So, oh shit. Oh. I'll probably I probably played video games for a little while after I paint. If you guys want to watch that, some new Ghost Recon missions. Oh damn.
Hello, friends. Here we are with another episode and some really interesting updates. We'll first discuss how expensive SpaceX Mars colonization mission could cost. Then the mighty mice, and a quick look at what China's doing. Elon Musk started SpaceX with a dream to build a small city on Mars. Overcoming all the obstacles on its path, SpaceX is slowly moving towards its target. All the SpaceX fans around the globe, and definitely many of you, are supporting him and hoping one day SpaceX will colonize Mars. Though many governments are not completely on SpaceX's side, as it's a gamble to put a huge amount of money on this dangerous mission.
Not really.
SpaceX CEO refers to his interplanetary desire as a sci-fi protagonist among his other business plans on Tesla and Neuralink. On August 31st, he said in a virtual Mars conference, "If there's something terrible that happens on Earth, either made by humans or natural, we want to have like life insurance for life as a whole. Then there's the kind of excitement and adventure." Previously, NASA's Apollo program, where the agency landed 6 spacecraft and 12 astronauts on the moon, has made a closer step to Elon Musk's interplanetary travel ambitions. The mission was estimated over $280 billion in today's dollars. Also, NASA was using more than 4% of the entire national budget in previous years. The agency is now planning to send humans again in lunar surface and eventually on Mars, but did not specify the total cost earlier. According to the information, Elon Musk's personal wealth has reached $100 billion, including his shares from Tesla's automotive company. Musk also hopes to profit from SpaceX's other business programs. SpaceX's satellite internet is currently under beta testing that will help fuel development in Mars rocket. Recently, SpaceX became the world's most highly valued private companies as the company raised nearly $6 billion from banks and venture capitalists. Elon Musk hopes one day some investors to be looking out for cash will ask the question, is there money to be made on Mars?
Not a dish. You're a man. Most name brand bars and body washes you rub on your skin are classified by the FDA as synthetic detergent. It's not even real soap. Stop marinating your man meat in unholy ingredients that are harmful to your well-being, body, and sperm count. Start treating your body to the natural, nourishing, lathery goodness of...
Elon Musk has said SpaceX would launch hundreds of missions before it could actually carry humans to the Red Planet. The total cost for his Starship development was estimated around $10 billion. Let's say SpaceX Starship is capable of sending human lives to Mars' surface, but airtight habitats will be required for the passengers to protect them from the toxic air and the deadly radiation that rains down on its surface. It's not for the faint of heart, Musk said on a virtual Mars event. Good chance you'll die and it's going to be tough going. And it better be pretty glorious if it works out. The lead scientist of NASA's Mars Exploration Unit, Michael Meyer, said, "For at least the first 100 years that humans have a presence on Mars, the economic situation will be dubious." The unit recently launched the Perseverance rover to gather more intel about the lifeless planet. SpaceX CEO has a theory for making Mars attractive and habitable for Earth-like living that's terraformation, a hypothetical process to create an environment similar to Earth's. But having a very small amount of oxygen and water, it will be a challenge to harvest crops on the red planet. According to research, Mars has no valuable resources to bring back to Earth. Elon Musk also agrees with that. Later said those resources will be only valuable to settlers to build up industries on the red planet. Apart from money-making ambitions, NASA's lead Mars expert, Michael Meyer, also acknowledged the lifeless planet has the potential that one day it could become a new home for Earth humans. Part of the reason scientists are interested in Mars is it's pretty much made of the same stuff as Earth, Meyer said. In my mind, it's not if Mars travel will one day be a profitable venture, but when. Musk's idea about exporting intellectual property on Mars reflect from a book written by Robert Zubrin, an influential but polarizing figure in the space community and a longtime Musk ally. In a recent interview, Zubrin talked about those ideas that American colonization has worked, but again, how could Mars colonists fund their trip? It could either be by liquidating their earthly possessions to fund the trip, or by indentured servitude. The question still remains, as we don't have any clue whom Elon Musk will choose as the first settlers in Mars. It could be his own employees or NASA astronauts, or maybe ultra-wealthy thrill-seekers. That's all about SpaceX's Mars dream. Let's discuss about the Mighty Mice now.
Indentured servitude?
After staying 1 month in the International Space Station, ISS, Mighty Mice held onto their muscle and returned to Earth with ripped bodybuilder physiques, as scientists reported on Monday. In December 2019, a research team under Dr. Se-Jin Lee of the Jackson Laboratory sent 40 female black mice on board in its SpaceX rocket to ISS. The goal of this experiment was to find a way of preventing muscle and bone loss of astronauts who were sent to long space trips like Mars and the people on Earth, who need wheelchairs or confined to bed. Dr. Lee said 24 regular untreated mice lost a certain amount of muscle and bone due to weightlessness, as expected up to 18%. However, the 8 genetically engineered Mighty Mice launched to ISS has maintained their bulk. Their muscles found to be similar and compare with the Mighty Mice that stayed at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. These 8 normal mice have received Mighty Mouse treatment, which includes blocking a pair of proteins that limit their muscle mass. In January, a SpaceX capsule returned to Earth with all 40 mice in good condition, landed on the Pacific of the California coast. According to Dr. Lee, some mice were injected the Mighty Mice drug after returning to Earth, as the effect showed they quickly built up more muscle than normal mice. Dr. Emily Germain Lee of Connecticut Children's Medical Center and Lee's wife submitted the test results for publication. Later, the couple scientists said more work has to be done before testing this drug on humans, as this drug should not have any serious side effects. We're years away, but that's how everything is when you go from mouse to human studies, Germain Lee said. Lee is planning to send more Mighty Mice to the space station for even longer days, as the previous results showed some other molecule worth investigating. 3 NASA astronauts, Christina Koch, Jessica Meyer, and Andrew Morgan, have taken care of the space mice, performing their body scans and injections. These astronauts are named as the co-authors of the experiment. And that's what we had related to those Mighty Mice today. Now, let's see some news from China.
Is your dog protected? Let's find out. So, do you like dogs?
Absolutely. Love dogs.
You like worms? Oh, gross. Ew.
No.
How many worms is he protected against?
I don't know.
You don't know what you don't know, you know? Interceptor Plus protects against 5 types of worms. HeartGuard Plus, only 3. Test dogs for heartworm infection prior to use. Reported side effects include vomiting, diarrhea, and lethargy. Ask your veterinarian about
On Monday, September 7th, China successfully launched its Long March 4B rocket into Earth's orbit. However, the first stage booster's return was not as good as the launch. Rather, it narrowly missed a local school and crashed on the nearby ground. The Long March 4B rocket was a payload of Gaofen 11 Earth observation satellites, lifted off from the Tian Satellite Launch Center in North China at 1:57 p.m. The powerful optical observation satellite, Gaofen 11, is capable of sending high-resolution images to the observation center, which will be used for land surveys, city planning, land rights confirmation, road network design, crop yield estimation, and disaster prevention and mitigation. Information from this satellite also offers support for belt and road construction. The China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, CASC, developed this satellite, and Shanghai Academy of Spaceflight Technology, SAST, one of the major institutes under CASC, developed the two-stage Long March 4B rocket. A footage was posted on the Chinese social media platform, which shows the first stage of the Long March 4B booster rocket was falling from the sky. After the booster crashed into the ground, a cloud of orange smoke came out from the crash site. First footage has been taken from near the Lilong village in Gaiyao town. Another footage was from a local school ground, as children's voices are audible in the background and the orange smoke is visible from a distance. The Long March 4B rocket's first stage booster is powered by mixed toxic hydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide. If the substance came in contact with something, it could cause serious damage on its health. China already has 3 secured space launch sites situated deep inland. Only the coastal launch site at Wenchang are allowed to launch the new Chinese Long March 5 and 7 rockets. The Long March 4B was China's 25th launch in 2020, which includes the test flight of Long March 5B and the country's first independent interplanetary launch mission on the Tianwen-1. 3 of 25 launches resulted in failure. In January, China's main state-owned space contractor said about launching 40 missions in this year, including the launches from commercial launch services. That's all, friends. We're done for today. Hope you like the updates apart from SpaceX. Please let us know if you want us to cover something else. We'll definitely give it a try. We'll soon come back with more updates. Till then, goodbye. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting. And kindly provide your valuable feedback in the comment section. This will help us to improve.
Plus Hulu and ESPN Plus now bundled together. The greatest stories and characters, the largest streaming TV.
Is there life beyond Earth? Elon Musk thinks so. To discover the answer to this spectacular question, we look no farther than our neighboring planet Mars. It may be our best promise to solve the mystery of creation. It's the nearest planet out there that is Earth-like enough that we could contemplate life has taken place in that world. Why is Elon Musk so fixated on planet Mars? At a medium distance of 140 million miles, Mars is one of Earth's nearest habitable environments. Mars is about half over as far from the Sun as Earth, so it still has adequate sunlight. It's slightly cold, but it can be warmed up. Its climate is primarily CO2 with a little nitrogen and argon and a few other proof elements, which indicates that we can grow plants on Mars just by decreasing the atmosphere. Gravity on Mars is approximately 38% of Earth, so you'd be capable of lifting massive things and bouncing around there. Moreover, the day is exceptionally close to that of Earth. Let's face it, Elon Musk is resolute in sending 1 million people to Mars by 2050. He'll accomplish this by launching no less than 3 Starship rockets every day and generating a vast amount of jobs on the red planet. He says fleets of starships are necessary to make humans multiplanetary. It's that simple. His Starship would be the most compelling launch system ever created. Each launch would carry enough thrust to export more than 100 tons and 100 people into orbit at any given time. Musk didn't stipulate what exactly these rockets would necessitate in moving to Mars, but many foods, water, construction materials, accessories, and advanced life support systems are a guarantee. Thus, he simply calculated he would require a whole fleet of starships to build a continual settlement. He says the sooner people wake up to this Mars reality, the better. It's happening. People need to get involved. He agrees megatons per year into orbit are vital for life to become the multiplanetary dream. In total, 1,000 starships could hypothetically carry about 100 megatons of stuff to Mars. That's the amount Musk has said he expects to send to the red planet per year. With every ship transporting about 100 passengers, that would make for a total immigration of about 100,000 people. Musk also inferred that he proposed capitalizing on the short window of time that the orbits of Earth and Mars align, which come about every 25 months. That enables spacecraft to spin off Earth's rotation and set themselves on a fuel-efficient course towards Mars. Musk said he would exploit that opportunity and any other he can think of by loading the Mars fleet into Earth orbit, then transferring all 1,000 ships on a Mars-bound orbit covering that 30-day window every 26 months. SpaceX may have a long way to go before attaining those dreams. It's not all about job creation. That's the byproduct. It's about achieving the impossible dream. How long will it take Elon Musk to get to Mars? SpaceX currently foresees its first cargo mission to Mars in 2022, with a human mission firmly penciled in for 2024. Musk believes that his ship Earth on Mars journey in a mere 30 days. There's an enormous distance between Earth and Mars, which means any journey to the red planet will take a lengthy time. It's more complicated because the distance is constantly changing as both planets rotate around the sun. The nearest the Earth and Mars would ever be is a span of 33.9 million miles. That's 9,800 times the distance between Glasgow and Boston. That's rare, though. The more valuable distance is the average, which is 140 million miles. Experts on Earth have previously launched a whole collection of spacecraft to or near Mars, so we have a bright idea of how long it takes with current technology. Historically speaking, the voyage has taken anywhere from 128 to 333 days, admittedly a tremendous length of time for individuals to be on board a confined spacecraft. Why does
My bad. For some reason, it sounded like motherfuckers in my backyard, but it must have been the neighbors. Next door. That shit sound hella close. I was trying to listen before I stood up for no reason. Started yelling at nobody. Hey, motherfucker, get off my grass.
Want to go to Mars so badly. The SpaceX and chief administrator said there's a 70% chance he'll get to Mars within his life, with strategies to forever resettle the red planet. Musk said his ambition to colonize the planet Mars is motivated by the same passion that propels people to climb mountains, for the challenge. Though some people think he's found lithium deposits or he likes the real estate options there. Despite a high likelihood of not making it even before arriving on Mars, and daily conditions there so unfriendly to human life, Elon Musk said in an interview he'd move to Mars. It has to be done. Maybe I'll change my name to Elon Mars and rename it as Planet Musk. We've recently made several breakthroughs that I'm just really fired up about, Musk said during an interview. Musk's comments are the latest in audacious statements that have distinguished his career in recent years, including his passion for transforming the auto industry with electronic means made by his company Tesla, and his intention to colonize Earth's nearby planet. SpaceX strives to export its first cargo mission to Mars in 2022, according to senior researchers at NASA. This will happen with a human crewed mission targeted for 2024 and almost guaranteed. NASA, too, has aspirations to send humans program to launch at least 11 Mars probes around 2020 and 2021. Scientists are enthusiastic about going to Mars for a multitude of reasons, including determining the origins of life and better comprehending the rise and collapse of Earth-like environments. Mars Explorer's primary goal is to probe the planet's history and pave the way for Elon Musk. The planet was not continuously the desert world that it appears to be today. It now has empty lakes and channels that suggest liquid water once flooded the surface, which may designate a thicker atmosphere that once encompassed the planet, possibly supporting life. But specialists see Mars as a failed planet with circumstances hostile to people. During an interview, Musk examined the proposition to colonize Mars to adventurer Ernest Shackleton's voyages to Antarctica, with no assurance of return or even survival throughout the trip or disembarkation. But despite the daunting mission, Musk sees a beneficial trade-off. You know, there are lots of people who climb mountains. You know why they do that? People die on Everest all the time, he said. They like doing it for the ambition, the challenge. They want to claim it, own it. It's a territory thing. SpaceX vowed to improve its space exploration endeavors by revealing its first commercial tourist status who would take a journey around the moon. In 2023, billionaire Yasuka Maezawa and 6 artisans are provisionally scheduled to fly to the moon on a week-long voyage. Their transportation, the nearly 400-foot-tall Starship. It's still in the developmental stage and is slated to perform its first flights to orbit in 2 to 3 years. SpaceX and Musk's interplanetary projects have seen a lot of setbacks. SpaceX also delayed its plans to fly tourists around the moon, although Mars is looking real at this point, as the SpaceX founder is attempting to get people to accept it, finally. SpaceX has developed a successful test flight of its Starship spacecraft, which it knows will one day use to transport people to the moon and Mars. The Starship SN5 prototype produced a 150-meter hop at a SpaceX facility in South Texas when it took off from one launch pad and conducted a controlled landing on a separate launch pad. It's a significant milestone for the private space firm and comes just days after safely recovering 2 astronauts from the International Space Station on board the Crew Dragon. Mars is looking real, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk announced following the victorious Starship test. Progress is hastening at an unprecedented rate. SpaceX is developing Mars spaceports, Elon Musk revealed. Earlier this year, Musk announced that SpaceX is developing floating Super Heavy class spaceports for rockets traveling between Earth, the Moon, and Mars. The spacecraft departments will also be utilized to propel passengers traveling at hypersonic speeds around Earth. The tech billionaire has repeatedly articulated his desire to make humankind a multi-planetary species, and speaking at a satellite conference, Musk said he dreaded progress towards this goal was occurring at too slow a pace. We've got to increase our rate of innovation, or based on former trends, I'm not going to be here for Mars, Musk said. The final objective of Musk and SpaceX is to develop a human settlement on the Red Planet, which is 34 million miles from Earth at its closest point, which can then be employed as a base to investigate the further reaches of the solar system. To enhance the planet's forbidding climate, Musk has proposed utilizing giant mirrors or even fissionable methods to make it more livable for humans. He calls it a fixer-upper type planet. Eventually, you can modify Mars into an Earth-like planet. You'd heat it up. SpaceX now intends to conduct more tests of the Starship SN5 prototype before adding a nose cone and other aerodynamic features. We're doing numerous short hops to smooth out the launch process and then go high elevation with body flaps, Musk tweeted. Elon Musk makes occupying Mars his top priority. This is well known in all his industries, but how is he going to do it? Now that SpaceX has a prosperous NASA commission under its belt, it can propel his plans forward to land on Mars in the next few years. Having achieved its first human launch, SpaceX founder and chief administrator Elon Musk says the organization is now focusing on strengthening its next-generation spacecraft Starship. Now that NASA and SpaceX have successfully launched astronauts from U.S. soil for the first time in almost a decade, the pace of development is picking up. According to an in-house email given to staff and seen by CNBC, the CEO informed staff that advancement on Starship is now the primary focus for the company, besides the Dragon crew's safety and return from the International Space Station. For those not familiar with Starship, it's an incredibly 50 meters tall. Musk's purpose is to make the spaceflight transports as reusable planes, although they'll descend back on Earth perpendicularly instead of horizontally. 4 years ago, the billionaire described his vision of creating a colony on Mars in our lifetimes. For several years, the company used an illustration of the Martian surface being terraformed in its promotional stop. Nevertheless, a NASA-sponsored study dismissed these plans as unlikely with today's technology. Musk has famously stated it was possible to make a self-sustaining city on Mars by 2050 if we start in the next 5 years. According to SpaceX's most current detailed plans, there are 2 phases for the first human-crewed missions to colonize Mars. The first effort will take place when a minimum of 2 Starship rockets land on Mars. These will be the crewless spacecraft, but carrying drones and robots, which will establish whether there are adequate water resources on the planet and seek out any geographic risks. The second phase will begin in 2024, when an extra pair of Starship spacecraft lands on Mars with the first astronauts. These spacecraft will bring materials and equipment, as well as several production plants for eternal life on the planet, and acquire a base of operations. Separately, the triumphant mission for NASA has granted the company a boost ahead of the U.S. Space Agency's new moon landing program. This will return humans to the moon by 2024 and place the foundation for a human-crewed mission to Mars. NASA's new Artemis program is defined after Apollo's mythological sister, and this is intended to transport the first female passenger to the moon. The appropriately named Artemis program will be used as a way to produce something described as the Lunar Gateway, a version of the ISS, but this time orbiting the moon, enabling it to be utilized as a gateway for missions dedicated for Mars. NASA has given SpaceX and Blue Origin permission to evolve its new lunar landers, which will take the next crew to the moon's surface. The status of these benefits is in question, nevertheless, with an ongoing examination by the NASA Office of Inspector General provoking the agency's chief of human spaceflight, Douglas Loverro, to retire just days before the successful human-crewed mission to the ISS. Elon Musk knows one thing planning for Mars: the city has to persevere if the resupply ships suddenly stop coming from us on Earth. It'll take 1,000 spaceships and 1 million tons of vitamin C to make life on Mars habitable long term. To live on Mars, we must have a self-sustaining city there. A colony on Mars has to survive if the resupply ships stop coming from Earth for whatever reason this might happen, and it will likely occur. It doesn't matter why, just that it will. Things will go wrong if those resupply ships cease. Does the city survive or not? To make anything self-sustaining, you cannot miss anything. You must have all the right ingredients. It can't be like, well, self-sustaining except for this one little thing that we don't have. It just can't be like that. Musk has often described it as a long sea voyage of exploration. That'd be like saying, well, we had everything except vitamin C. Okay, great. Now you're going to get scurvy and die. So we've got to make sure we've got the vitamin C there on Mars, Musk declared. Then it's like, okay, rough order of magnitude, what kind of cargo do you need to make it self-sustaining? It's probably not less than 1 million tons. It's known the average adult requires between 75 and 90 milligrams of vitamin C every day, according to data of the Department of Health and Human Services in the U.S. Considering a 90 milligram dose, 1 million tons of vitamin C would be more than 10 trillion doses. Musk tweeted in January that his Starship transit system's purpose to Mars would be to launch each of SpaceX's reusable Starship spacecraft about 3 times daily on average, while providing a 100-ton payload on every flight, with approximately 1,000 flights per year, bringing more than 100 tons of cargo on each trip. At that valuation, Musk speculates each Starship spacecraft would make about 1,000 flights per annum, launching at least 100,000 tons of freight into orbit. Besides, 1,000 Starships could also transport around 100,000 people per Earth-Mars orbital sync, meaning the 26 months when Earth and Mars have orbits suitably aligned for the perfect, efficient journey. Musk has thought deeply about how everything would work on Mars, too. For example, there'll be job creation on Mars. Musk also claimed there would be a direct democracy there so that the residents will make decisions for themselves. Musk also maintains there should be less complex laws on Mars than there are on Earth. As for the colony itself, it'll have an outdoorsy, fun, environmental atmosphere. So you'd presumably want to have some faceted glass dome with a natural green park area so you can stroll about without a suit on. He said food would be grown on solar-powered hydroponic farms located either underground or in an enclosed structure. Musk has also said he'd send 1 million people to Mars by 2050. I'll probably be long gone before Mars becomes self-sustaining, Musk told Ars Technica, but I'd like to be around at least to see a bunch of ships land on Mars. SpaceX is making progress in this endeavor. Shortly after the test flight, which endured only 1 minute, SpaceX founder Elon Musk announced, Mars seems realistic.
Stadia streams games directly from Google's data centers to your devices.
Now, the SN5 took off from Boca Chica at 1857 local time for the short flight. It employs a single Raptor engine, which is powered by fluid methane and fluid oxygen. But to overwhelm Earth's gravity, it'll require to be launched by a bulky rocket called Super Heavy, which will be outfitted with a whopping 31 Raptor engines. SpaceX's Starship could pilot astronauts on the moon for NASA in the 2020s and exceeding future projections. The Starship vehicle is one of 3 shortlisted nominated vehicles to land people on the moon in the 2020s for NASA. SpaceX CEO Elon Musk worked out a bit more aspects of the timeline and vehicle specifications to not only approach Mars, but to establish a sustainable station on the red planet that can labor as an actual city, maintaining a local population. That's the long-term insight for Musk and his Space Technology Corporation. After all, making people the interplanetary species, the timeline that Musk presented, responding to fans on Twitter, might be astonishingly powerful or strangely ambitious, depending on your viewpoint. Discussing a problem with remarks he made at the U.S. Air Force startup Pitch Day development in California, Musk announced that his aforesaid launch cost of solely around $2 million per Starship flight is typically expected. Musk discussed more near-term potential for Starship also, including how much cargo and volume Starship will render for Earth's orbital transport. Starship's purpose is dedicated to maximizing reuse, and in truth, Musk recorded that it could run up to 3 times per day ideally. That amounts to more than 1,000 trips per year per Starship, which indicates that if they end up with as many Starships as they currently have developed Falcon rockets, some 100, they can make each move as much as 100 tons to orbit. Then on a yearly basis, SpaceX will be capable of launching 10 million tons to orbit per year. To put that in view, Musk indicates that if you take all cargo-bearing spacecraft typically in performance into account, the complete payload range is just 500 tons per year, with Falcon range rockets of SpaceX itself forming around half that. It's a lot of payloads. In fact, it's probably more than there will be demand for in any near-term timescale. But it's also true that Musk envisions a future where orbital space is a much busier place and a staging ground for orbital cargo transfer and refueling as Moon and Mars-bound spacecraft ready themselves for the outward journey. Of course, to set up a permanent, sustainable city on Mars, we first have to get there with a crewed flight. Speedy and frequent reuse is key to Musk's overall perception, which includes lowering the cost of spaceflight satisfactorily to create Mars colonization and other audacious exploration achievements economically attainable. Manufacturing 100 Starships per year gets to 1,000 in 10 years, or also 100 megatons a year. Musk wants all this enterprise to lead to establishing a sustainable principality on the Red Planet. The purpose of creating multi-planet species is very close to the entrepreneur's heart. He's repeatedly stressed that he founded SpaceX back in 2002 and why he has been amassing wealth for the past few decades. In mid-2017, Musk said that the Starship construction, which was then designated the Interplanetary Transport System, could provide a 1 million-person city to rise on Mars within 50 to 100 years. He's still operating towards such an enthusiastic timeline, an even more ambitious one. Super Heavy won't secure the trip to Mars, by the way. The enormous rocket is required just to get the Starship vehicle into orbit. The customer spacecraft will launch itself off the Moon and Mars, both of which have much less gravity than Earth. Musk often tweets photos, like the recent one of technicians working on the SN1's nose cone and liquid oxygen header tank. Starship could possibly be operating soon. SpaceX's representatives have said that the vehicle's first operational purposes, which will expectedly loft communication satellites, this could come as early as 2021, and there's already one crewed mission on Starship's manifest. SpaceX wants to build a colony city on Mars with no stone unturned to get it done. Musk first described this target in a famous 2017 presentation where he explained the BFR vehicle that would support this mission. At the time, Musk said the 2022 number was not a typo, although it is aspirational. A lot has improved since then. BFR became Starship. A mini Starship launched, several prototypes blasted themselves, but it seems Musk's resolution to reach the Red Planet in super fast time has not fluctuated. Why the big rush to Mars? Musk explained that it only seems like a race against time, but it's actually really vital. For example, the oceans would vanish within another 500 million years as the sun expands, meaning humanity has a small window to expand and colonize. Whenever all life on Earth becomes boiled off, we need to be somewhere else. What matters is how long civilization is responsible for making the jump to Mars. This could be a very short-lived period estimated in decades. It took 4.5 billion years to arrive at this position, and civilization isn't resembling anything super stable. From these two fundamental missions, the project would be to continue exporting rockets to the Red Planet until there were sufficient resources to become a self-sustaining civilization. This, he suggested, would demand approximately a dozen transfer windows. Earth and Mars align about every 26 months, indicating that the process could take around 25 years. That would mean that a self-sustaining Mars colony will definitely emerge before 2050. This method is based on the opinion that the colony would require around 1 million tons of baggage. This would have a serious price tag. Musk explained back in 2019 it'd be somewhere between 0.5% and 1% of the entire world's GDP. Musk pegged the sum between $100 billion and $10 trillion. This value would fluctuate depending on how much it costs to propel 1 ton to Mars, as the low-end value estimates a price of about $100,000 per ton. The Starship is crucial to all these concepts. Currently under development at the Boca Chica department in Texas, the stainless steel mechanism can carry up to 150 tons or 100 people into space at a time. The fully reusable spacecraft uses liquid oxygen and methane as fuel, which are available resources on Mars. This would permit humans to visit the planet to refuel and each return to Earth or venture out further to assist the project. SpaceX is proposing to produce 1,000 Starships, but people still cannot accept how big this project is. The Mars colony is presumably SpaceX's most formidable project. Engineers have expressed how scientific research can be employed, expand human knowledge, and advance into its economy. Third-party specialists have detailed how it could lead to innovations in human evolution, new economic principles, even a new society. But overcoming those rich enough to buy a license to go to Mars may prove to be a complicated sell. Conceivably, the most interesting part about Musk's new date is that it comes before the proposed 2023 mission. Paul Worcester, SpaceX principal Mars advancement engineer, stated back in October 2019 that it's not an either-or determination. We're excited about the possibilities of doing both, having bases on the moon while we're also setting up these colonies on Mars. Elon Musk is never one to shy away from setting ambitious goals. He's checked off one historic milestone after another. Everything he does is just a matter of time. Achievement and success for Musk is simply a matter of time. Why Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin, Boeing, and others still receive multi-billion-dollar contracts to build rockets for the government's space agency is beyond normal people. Musk, the genius he is, should just receive all the funds as he uses them so well. While Musk does set ambitious goals for his companies, his goal of one day colonizing Mars is now only a matter of time. Everybody knows it's happening, and with only a few tiny difficulties, it's just a matter of cost. Musk has said that reading sci-fi author Isaac Asimov's Foundation saga helped inspire him to found SpaceX. He knew after reading that not only could he go to Mars, but he would probably finish his life on the Red Planet. Musk then, and all of us now, cannot argue about anything other than the simple cost of making all this happen. After all, Wernher von Braun wrote a book called Project Mars, a technical tale in 1948. Von Braun wrote about the colony on Mars whose leader was named Elon. Fact is sometimes stranger than fiction. After all, Elon now has to fulfill the von Braun prophecy as Elon Mars on Planet Musk.
There's a mysterious zone far out in our solar system. It's a region of ice worlds, some solitary, some with moons. Their names may be unfamiliar. Eris, Makemake, Haumea, but they hold clues to all our origins. And the first of these worlds, and the one we'll reach in 2015, is the king of the Kuiper Belt, Pluto. The long journey of NASA's New Horizons mission began in 2006 aboard America's biggest, baddest rocket, tricked out with every conceivable booster.
We built a very light spacecraft and bought a very large launch vehicle, and the combination is ferocious.
But in some sense, it all began in 1930 with Clyde Tombaugh, 24 years old and fresh off a farm in Kansas, but willing to spend long hours scanning star fields to find a moving point of light. Humanity's first glimpse of Pluto. The dream of actually getting to Pluto began with a 6-year-old boy in love with science, who grew up to lead a team of brilliant researchers and engineers with dogged persistence through decades of planning and building and testing. A race against time just to get to the launch pad.
Exploring the outer solar system, because it's so far, takes a lot of time. It requires a lot of patience, a lot of dedication, a lot of perseverance. But it's a frontier.
Assuming all goes well at Pluto, NASA may choose to extend the adventure further out into the Kuiper Belt, the solar system's mysterious third zone.
This is maybe the one chance in my lifetime that we're going to get a spacecraft out there and look up close at one of these Kuiper Belt objects.
December 6th, 2014. New Horizons wakes up for the last time from hibernation.
New Horizons is speeding towards Pluto at a phenomenal rate, and we can't wait for it to get there.
January 27, 2015, 6 months of approach science begins. July 14, 2015, New Horizons' long journey, 3 billion miles, 9 years in flight, and 85 years of speculation about Pluto, climaxes in one day of close approach and flyby.
We're around at third base and we're headed home.
The dream, the adventure, the promise of discovery. That's what makes 2015 the year of Pluto. Studying Pluto and its neighbors from Earth is one of the toughest challenges in astronomy. It takes the largest telescopes and most advanced instrumentation on the planet. And it's tough even for the Hubble Space Telescope. And it takes time, from the discovery of Pluto in 1930 to NASA approving the New Horizons mission in 2001 to arriving at the planet in 2015. It's been 85 years, and time passing is definitely an actor in our story. But it's the combination of human skill, cutting-edge image processing, and sheer bloody-minded persistence that has resulted in the most important discoveries. And that's a tale as true today as back in 1930, when Pluto was first found by Clyde Tombaugh. In 2011, at the SETI Institute near San Francisco, Mark Showalter used Hubble data to discover 2 new moons around Pluto, although he was actually looking for possible rings. Showalter has found rings associated with small moons around other planets.
And that was kind of the motivation for checking out Pluto. It's got 2 little satellites. Satellites release clouds of dust. Let's see what might be there.
It's easy to take artistic license to show what Pluto's rings might look like. In reality, it's incredibly hard to see faint objects against the dense background star field and the glare from Pluto and its large moon, Charon.
We came up with this trick where you take the images and then you rotate the camera 90 degrees, you take more images, and if you do that all just right, you can do this thing where all that glare cancels out, and what we're left with is just the rings. We can think of it as a stack of images. Think of it as like a cube looking down. So let's turn it on its side. So now if we start peeling off the layers and looking downward through the stack, things suddenly become much, much cleaner. For example, Hydra and Nix show up very, very cleanly. But the thing that immediately caught my eye was this little dot right there. It's not a perfectly sharp hot pixel like over here, and that's what made it pretty convincing to me that we had seen a very small moon of Pluto that nobody had seen before.
To be sure you've detected a real moon or planet, you have to show it's moving, unlike the background stars.
The thing that makes moons distinctive is if we come back later, they'd all have shifted because they all orbit the central planet. This required a great deal of patience to then wait about 6 days until we got our next set of observations of the Pluto system. Sure enough, the object was still there. It had moved by just about the right amount to be something orbiting Pluto, and we knew we had a moon.
Next year, Showalter and colleagues went back and built on lessons learned to see what else might be there. Summer 2012. Days of Hubble observations.
Now, what you can see here are about 45 minutes a day. Back and forth in this 3-frame sequence. That looks like a little moon of Pluto. It's moving just direction, and so it was just a couple of weeks later that we made the announcement that the 5th moon had been discovered.
Patience, persistence, ingenuity. That was exactly what led to the discovery of Pluto back in 1930. In Kansas in the 1920s, Clyde Tombaugh grew up in hard times and built telescopes using leftover farm implements. To check the accuracy of his best telescope, he sent drawings of Mars and Jupiter to the Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona. They were looking for staff, and he was hired. Along with observing the stars, he stoked the furnace and shoveled snow. But one assignment made history. Day after day, he'd use this machine, known as a blink comparator, to look for anything in his images that moved. It was tedious, painstaking work, but on plates taken on January 23rd and 29th and analyzed in February, he saw a small dot that did move against the fixed stars. Announcing the results after careful confirmation, the observatory made it easy to find the new planet by adding arrows.
This is an incredible work of observational astronomy, and having done something similar but with much more powerful tools, I can really appreciate his achievement.
For decades, Pluto remained, more or less, a point of light. But in the mid-70s, Dale Cruikshank and colleagues attached cameras with infrared filters to a telescope at Kitt Peak.
Detectors or sensors had been improved, and larger telescopes had become available. Well, we did that work in 1976 and found evidence for frozen methane on Pluto's surface. It was several years later that we found evidence for the other ices.
In 1978, astronomers Jim Christie and Bob Harrington analyzed new plates taken at the U.S. Naval Observatory in Flagstaff. Christie noted an elongation to the north of Pluto. 1 month later, the bump had disappeared. From this and other evidence, they concluded that Pluto, like Earth, had a moon, Charon. From eclipses between Pluto and Charon occurring in the 1980s, astronomers calculated that the moon was almost half the size of its parent body, so large that both objects spin around their mutual center of gravity, outside Pluto. Pluto and Charon were the first double-dwarf planet combo discovered in our solar system. Using the basic physics of their orbits and the distance between them, astronomers could calculate their mass and size. Pluto was a little smaller than Earth's moon, about 1,500 miles in diameter, and had only 1/10 its mass. Between 1985 and 1990, astronomers were in luck. As Pluto and Charon orbited their mutual center of gravity, each passed in turn in front of the other. The so-called mutual events allowed astronomers like Mark Bowie to capture the changing patterns of light. Patiently, Bowie created a map of Pluto. Pluto turned out to have one of the 2 most contrasty surfaces in the entire solar system. In the mid-90s, Bowie and Alan Stern used the Hubble Space Telescope to make the first direct images of Pluto's surface.
And it's exciting to Mark and I and to our whole scientific team to be able to see this object that no humans really could glimpse as a real planet, as a real object in the solar system previously.
In 2005, Hal Weaver and Alan Stern used the Hubble for another close-up look at Pluto and Charon. They discovered 2 small, dim moons where only Charon had been seen before. Now we know from Mark Showalter's work that there are 2 more moons, making the current total of 5, and that Pluto is a genuine mini-planetary system. From its size and orbit, astronomers estimated that Pluto is perhaps 70% rock and 30% ice. That makes it one of the largest of a whole new class of objects, the ice dwarf planets, making up what's known as the Kuiper Belt. This region is named for Gerhard Kuiper, a leading mid-20th century planetary astronomer. Kuiper suggested that the solar system didn't end with Neptune and Pluto, but that there should be a disk of other worlds beyond them. In 1992, from a mountaintop in Hawaii, David Jewett and Jane Liu found the first Kuiper Belt object. They were using new and highly sensitive CCDs, like the sensors in a modern digital camera. But their technique was essentially an updated version of Tombaugh's work. Take carefully registered images of a patch of sky and see if anything moves against the distant stars. This one, QB1, did just that. It was only a few hundred kilometers across, 10 times smaller than Pluto, but still huge compared to a comet. Since then, teams of astronomers have found around 2,000 KBOs. Informed by cutting-edge astronomy, but with a fair dose of artistic license, let's take a trip through this third zone of our solar system.
We used to think of the solar system consisting of 2 different types of planets. The planets we call the terrestrial planets, which are Earth-like planets. That would be Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars.
Next out, the asteroid belt. Fragments of worlds smashed to pieces by gravitation and collisions. Then come the 4 gas giants. Jupiter and its moons. Saturn with its magnificent rings. Uranus, also ringed. And Neptune.
And then Pluto was this kind of, odd guy out. It was this little object at the edge of the solar system. And then when we found all these other Kuiper Belt objects, this is kind of almost a third type of object.
So for the first time ever, you'll be able to fly by a brand new object. An object that's been forming for billions of years. And understand what outer parts of the solar system are all about.
By July 2015, we'll know for sure what Pluto and its moons look like, and that will provide breakthrough information on all those other ice dwarf planets, the most numerous planetary objects in the entire solar system that make up the Kuiper Belt. Actually, the Kuiper Belt is more like a donut, bulging up above and down below the ecliptic where most of the planets move.
It's kind of like the asteroid belt, but much bigger. It has hundreds of times more objects in it than the asteroid belt.
Let's now visit 5 named KBOs in the exact positions they'll be in on July 14th, 2015, the day when New Horizons flies by Pluto. Quaoa was one of the first Kuiper Belt objects discovered. It's about 1,000 kilometers in diameter, a reddish world, covered in water ice, methane, and ethane. And like many KBOs, it has a tiny moon of its own, Waywa. Up above and down below the plane of the solar system, numerous KBOs have been flung about by Neptune's gravity. This region is known as the scattered disk. One of the largest of these KBOs, Eris, is close in size to Pluto and is made of rock and methane ice. Astronomers categorize KBOs by the tilt of their orbits relative to the plane of the solar system. And one of the more highly inclined orbits belongs to Makemake, named for a Hawaiian creation deity.
Some of these have methane or water ice on their surfaces. Some of them just seem to be covered in some brownish gunk. There are grey objects out there. There are brown objects out there. There seem to be distinct populations.
Some of them seem to be very spherical, and so they probably have warm interiors, and then others are peculiar shapes, which suggest they're very cold and strong.
Perhaps the most bizarre and unexpected KBO is Haumea, a KBO shaped like an American football, made of rock and ice. It's white with red splotches, and orbited by at least 2 moons. One of the strangest orbits of any KBO belongs to Sedna, discovered in 2003. Its orbit is the most eccentric of any KBO now known. bringing it as close as 76 AU to the Sun, but then carrying it outward to 936 times the Earth-Sun distance. Sedna's strange 11,000-year orbit seems to link it to an even vaster cloud of objects, ready for exploration by future generations. The Oort cloud is an immense icebox of long-period comets, from 10 to 100 times more distant than the Kuiper Belt, surrounding all the known worlds of our solar system.
There's a real record of the early history of the solar system out there in cold storage at the edge of the solar system.
This is what was left over. Pluto is the first member of that group.
But to begin humanity's exploration of the Kuiper Belt, you first have to get to Pluto. And that means getting a mission approved, a spacecraft designed and built, and delivered to the launch pad on time. And none of that was easy. (2015) may be the year of Pluto, but getting there has taken many long years of effort. And for New Horizons, there's a date when things got started: 1989. It was the year when George Herbert Walker Bush became president and the Berlin Wall fell. Far from Earth, it was also the year when NASA's Voyager spacecraft flew by Neptune and returned the first images of its moon, Triton. Hairstyles of some New Horizons scientists were very different, but for them, May 5th, 1989 was a most important date.
That's the day that I marched into the then Division Director for Planetary Science at NASA headquarters, Jeff Briggs, as a graduate student, and asked him why we are studying a mission to Pluto. And he responded, because no one's ever asked me before. That seems like a brilliant idea. Why don't we do that?
Space missions rely on hundreds, if not thousands of people, but sometimes it takes someone with passion and persistence to make things happen. And for New Horizons, that's Alan Stern.
I was interested in this when I was a boy, so I've been somewhere between in the groove and stuck in a rut for 40 years.
There'd been some thought about sending one of the twin Voyager spacecraft past Pluto to complete the exploration of the known solar system. But in the 70s, the scientific establishment wasn't convinced Pluto was all that interesting. Young grad students like Alan, Mark Bowie, and Frank Bagenal thought differently.
Back in, about late 1989 or so, there was a bunch of us who were really keen to go to Pluto.
And the thing that drew me to it the most was the fact that we knew so little. Here's the frontier.
So it was a bit of an opportunity for young people to come in and say, hey, where are we going to go next? What's the next great frontier that we should go explore? And it was clear, out to the Kuiper Belt.
Alan, Fran, Mark, and a small band of enthusiasts became known as the Pluto Underground.
So we realized to make this happen, we had to get together and campaign hard to make the case to go there and explore this little planet with all its moons.
All through the 90s, there were many competing plans for a Pluto mission, like the Pluto Fast Flyby, the Pluto Kuiper Express. A Pluto mission was on, then off, then on, then off.
If the Pluto mission had been a cat, it would have been dead long ago because they only get 9 lives. And we've had significantly more than 9 stoppages and odd twists and turns.
What finally turned the tide was the National Academy's Decadal Survey, a consensus document from leading planetary scientists that ranked a Kuiper Belt Pluto mission highest in priority for medium-class budgets. Finally, after competitive proposals were evaluated, New Horizons, which teamed Alan Stern with the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, APL, and several other institutions across the country, was selected by NASA on November 29, 2001. Now, plans on paper became metal in clean rooms. In 2004, lead scientist Alan Stern described the mission's key science objective.
Well, you know, the key to planetary science is that you really have to go places to get the resolution, to get up close enough to really see what's going on. We want to get up close and personal.
The very best resolution of current telescopes looking at Pluto would give this kind of fuzzy image of a much more familiar world. But here's what New Horizons would see if flying over New York City. Lakes in Central Park, wharves on the Hudson River,
New Horizons is the first really of a whole new breed of spacecraft that is focusing on a very specific task.
For this first mission to Pluto, the questions are basic. What do Pluto and Charon look like? What are they made of? How do their atmospheres behave?
We had to really be disciplined and say, we can't do everything. Let's focus on the primary questions and design the instruments to answer those primary questions.
The long-range imager, LORRI, will be used for navigation approaching Pluto and close-up views during the flyby. The wide-angle camera, RALPH, has both visible light and infrared sensors to map Pluto and Charon and characterize their icy surfaces. There are 2 fields and particles detectors to probe the solar wind at Pluto. The large radio antenna is an essential communications device, but both REX and ALICE, an ultraviolet imaging spectrometer, are part of experiments to analyze Pluto's atmosphere. And there's the Venetia Burney Student Dust Counter, built by undergrads at UC Boulder, and honoring the schoolgirl who named Pluto back in 1930. Together, the 7 science instruments comprise the most powerful set of detectors ever sent on a first flyby of any world in our solar system. But their innovative and highly miniaturized design means that even when all are operating, they draw less power than half a 60-watt bulb, and they're intended to work together seamlessly. After building comes testing, but always with an eye on the clock and the calendar.
It's very, very important that we launch in either 2006 or 2007. We have to. You want to fly to Pluto on the quickest route, you need Jupiter in position. And that means we have to launch in January of 2006. It feels a little bit like being strapped to a train going 500 miles an hour.
The test program involves teams of engineers at Johns Hopkins APL and then at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center.
Once we launch this, we can't go after it with a screwdriver. We can't go fix anything that isn't working.
We make sure that we carry plenty of spare equipment on board the spacecraft. If our main computer breaks, we have a backup. If our main transmitter breaks, we have a backup.
One of the things we do is we put the whole spacecraft on a gigantic vibration table, a paint shaker, and shake it. And then test it after that, and shake it again, and test it again. So that's what we're doing from now until launch.
Along with testing the spacecraft, New Horizons needs to train and test its human operators. And our mission plan to reach Pluto in 2015, it's important to have availability so they'll be around at close approach.
It's good that we can do that, so they will have both the time, the focus to stay with the mission over this long period of time.
Many of the faces you see around Mission Control in 2004 and 2005 are young and enthusiastic spacecraft engineers.
Normally we're focused on subsystems and instruments in the spacecraft surviving that duration, but for people we have to have a longevity plan.
They'd be committing the prime of their careers to this mission to Pluto, knowing they'd be a decade older when New Horizons reaches its primary target.
The ability to practice things in those years far out there, all part of the planning now to assure mission success then.
In 2015, I don't know, something, we're in my 40s.
Oh, you're a youngster.
Yes.
In late 2005, the action shifts to Cape Canaveral. New Horizons may be light and relatively small, but launching it to Pluto requires America's most powerful rocket.
Alright guys, I'm out of here. Well, I'm not, like I said, I'm not done streaming. I'm just gonna go fix something to eat and play some video games since there's a new update or some new missions on Ghost Recon. But we got a good bit done. This project is coming along nicely. And I'll catch you guys downstairs.